We are back, and this time has flown by, Dr. Sharon. I'm so thankful for your generosity with this book and writing it. I mean, you didn't have to. I don't know that, we talked about your accomplished career. This isn't something that you needed to do, but it's something you did do. And what I love about reading Grown Woman Talk is it does feel like, you talk about this, it feels like having a conversation with like your auntie or someone you know. And that title itself about Grown Woman Talk used to be something that we were excluded from, right? We're left
Right,
out of. But
right.
you're like, we're peeling this back. We're peeling back the conversations that you got told when you were young, like, go play. The aunties and mom is talking, right? Now we get to see and hear behind closed doors, but more importantly, in a way that is informed, in a way that it's not so scary, right? The scary things that we all built up in our mind about what's happening and what menopause is and fibroids, we get to peek into that conversation. And one of the things that you bring out that I had never heard before, it was the first time I heard it, was the concept of your health span. Can you talk a little bit about your health span and how that's different from your lifespan?
Sure. You know what? Health, let me just say, we all understand lifespan. Lifespan is just on average, how long do people live? And, in this country, you know, in terms of lifespan, Black women have about 2 to 3 years less lifespan than white women. Black men are probably at the bottom of the barrel in terms of their lifespan. But sometimes we have something to do about that, and sometimes we don't. There's some combination of environmental things and genetics and things that befall you. That's lifespan. But health span is the most important thing because it's not just how long you live, but how long do you live healthfully? And
Yes.
I don't have to, this is not going to take anybody, it won't take you more than a millisecond to think about the elders in your family. How many people do you know who are still living, who have had chronic diseases, that they have diabetes, they've had strokes, they've, fractured hips, and they are living in a diminished state for years. Now, we can argue about, yes, I'd like to have a long lifespan. Of course I would. But I would not like to spend the last 15 or 20 years of my life in a nursing home because of the chronic diseases and issues, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, that we are dealing with on a chronic basis. And that's where I think that we have the most ability to have an impact, is on our health span. And this is why it's so important, Kelley, for your audience, because to have the maximum effect on that health span, you start in your 20s and 30s. You don't start when you're 50, you know,
Yes.
and you've got to start adopting behaviors and monitoring and the things that you do, just like I said, that you avoid those warning signs ahead to say, I don't want to end up that way. And all the things that we talk about, the number one killer of all people in this country is cardiovascular disease, preventable stuff. There's lifestyle, there's a bunch of stuff you can do other than take medicine after you've already had a heart attack. Okay? Let's deal with that. We want to deal with the disease after the fact, and then we're going to get some really expensive medication. And we all know we've got seniors and grandparents and everybody who are sitting there and is spending all of their money and sort of taking 15 different medications a day. No, 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 no. Let's not do that. And that's where I want to talk to really your audience and to young people, to anybody who considers themselves a grown woman, that you have to start taking into account that these are the responsibilities that you have to yourself, not to anyone else. This is to you, such that when you look at your relatives and you see who's in good shape, who's in bad shape, understand that that's not an accident. That's not fate. That's just like, oh, you were just so lucky. No, it's how much you invest in the early years that's going to pay off in the later years. And that is your health span. And if you don't believe me, I mean, I think that women in particular live, even though we live a bit longer than men, we live in an unhealthy state longer than men. and go walk into any nursing home and see who's in there. How many women are there living diminished lives, save for the fact that they had these chronic conditions and diseases that put them there? And, I think that the reason why it's so important for us, and particularly for our generation, we have to realize we don't live in multi-generational homes and societies the way our grandparents did. There's no next person that's there to just sitting, in the house. It's like, don't
Yes.
worry, I got you. You may live someplace, your parents live someplace else. And a lot of you may be already dealing with that with aging parents. And, you have to think of it. Suppose you don't even have children. That's a possibility for a lot of people. So
Yes.
all I'm saying is, girl, you better get yourself here, because if you think that it's somebody else's job, if you don't want that to be your fate, then to all my 20 somethings, my 30 somethings, my 40 somethings out there, start now. And it's not to say that if you're 50 something or 60 something, it's too late. No, everybody can do better from wherever they start. But when I tell you that the most bang for your buck is going to be starting earlier, not accepting living a diminished quality life, even in our 30s, no, get on that. That's the message. And it comes from a place of nothing but love. The original title for my book wasn't Grown Woman Talk. The original title was really a love letter to my sisters, because that was really what I wanted it to be. It is the information that I wish my mother had. I've now lost two of my sisters. I'm one of five girls in the family. And it is just the information that I wish that they had, because had they had it and had they acted upon it, I think that their health outcomes would have been very different.
Well, Dr. Sharon just told us. I hope you all are listening, because we just got told in the best, most loving way, which is it's all of it's true. There's not one thing you said that isn't true. Generationally, millennials are having less children. Gen Z are having less children. I'm childless. So it is true. Who's going to take care of you? We're also marrying later or not at all. So there's a lot of professionally well-developed, beautiful women who are single and childless and taking care of yours. And even if you have children, there's no guarantee they're coming to take
Right.
care of you. Let's be clear. But you need to be thinking about that. Just like we think about financial investments, we need to think about our health investments. And when you talked about the health span, it made me think about, one, things have changed. Medical technology has gotten better. We are extending lifespans. But health spans is not necessarily catching up. So people are living longer, but how? And when I thought of the health span, just for myself, I thought about living with joy. That's what the health span means for me, right? It's not just living long, it's living every day of my life with some joy, with joy. And so how does that concept of joy relate to the health span, like for you? How do you see that relating?
You know what? There's a meme that says that sisterhood is medicine. And for women, for us, we thought that, that being partnered is going to extend your life. It does not.
It doesn't.
People who are healthy and who maintain their vitality as they age are women who are in the community of other women. People who have friends, they have community. That is more important to you in terms of your health span and lifespan than whether or not you have a life partner. And I have always found that, if I say what brings me joy, I grew up in a household of women. I have a cadre of women friends. They bring me joy because they provide the sisterhood and the support in a way that even my husband, whom I love dearly, that he just can't do. There are things that we enjoy doing, and I think that maintaining that community keeps us vital. It keeps us healthy. So where do I find joy? I find joy in my community and my sisterhood that I have maintained for my entire life, and I hope to have for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said, because I do think we talk about in this podcast, we talk about opting out of struggle, and then we say if you leave something behind, you got to pick something up. So what do we say? We opt into our real birthright as Black women, which is joy. But one of the things I talk about a lot is community. And community is, we need to broaden what we define as community. It's not just having best friends, which I'm absolutely not opposed to. Community is in this book. Community is this conversation I'm having with you. We are in community. And it doesn't mean it has to last a lifetime, but what is happening? We're having an exchange that is joyful. We're smiling. That is informative. It's tackling tough subjects, but it's doing so in such a meaningful way that impacts and changes. And a conversation can change your life. A book, like Grown Women Talk, can change your life. And that is all part of that little moment, these moments, you all listening to this podcast, that is adding to your health span. Taking the knowledge that you've heard today, buying the book, just absorbing the conversation is extending the quality of life that you have, and understanding to go back to your sisters and say, hey, listen to this episode. Hey, check out this book with Dr. Sharon. This is going to help us. That is all feeding into the joy and into creating a healthy lifespan.
That is it. You nailed it.
Thank you, Dr. Sharon. So as we close out, I want to just ask, like, is there anything that we've missed? Like, if there's a last parting word, you've given us a lot to process. So I'm not in any way saying you missed the mark, but is there anything as a Black woman entering the healthcare system, as they're facing their health, as she's facing her health, is there any piece of advice you'd give to ensure that, again, we're properly heard, we extend our health span? Any parting words of wisdom do you have for us?
You know, it gets back to what I was saying before. Own your power in this in this new paradigm that we're going to have, that's called the doctor-patient relationship, because it's not what it used to be. You're not going to see one provider for 30 years. You know, I lived in one place and stayed there, and I have patients who I've seen from high school to menopause. That's not going to be the experience of most women. So I say this to say, not to discourage you, because it's what it is, but to say that you have more control and more power over how you age than any doctor you're ever going to see or any medication you're ever going to take. So use that power.
Yes, and that's the point. Like, don't be discouraged by previous health conditions, or, well, my mama had this, or I feel terrible and I'm 30. Don't be discouraged by that. Know that there is opportunities for you to own your power and rewrite the script, and to do that with joy. And I think the other thing I'm going to tell on you, because you didn't say this yet, is your book comes with a playlist.
It does.
And if you love old school R&B, which I do, it's filled with it. It's got like Jill Scott. The first track is Heavy D and the Boys. I got nothing but love for you.
Yes.
Which I hadn't heard that song in forever. I was like, oh, this is bringing me back. So, but again, I think that also sets the tone for joy intersecting with this grown woman talk, right?
That's exactly right. Because we talk about some heavy things.
Yes.
And it's okay to talk about heavy things, but we can take that, we can step away, go listen to a little music and come back and know that, you know, none of it has to be that hard. None of it has to be that hard.
It doesn't. There's possibilities. And, you know, Dr. Sharon, we're going to need to have you curate a Black Girl Burnout playlist. I mean, I think you've got a knack for it.
Oh, I will. Oh, and I will.
Thank you so much for this conversation. It's so important. I really want to emphasize this. We only get one body. We just only get one. And how we live it. If you all have beautiful dreams and beautiful goals, and I want you to meet them all, Dr. Sharon wants you to meet them all, you won't do that if you do not take this seriously. Get this book. It's going to help you. It is not a medical textbook. I promise you, it's an easy read. It's important. I want everyone to have this, because it really is life-changing to be empowered with this knowledge. So, Dr. Sharon, thank you so much for coming on this podcast and speaking to our folks. I just greatly appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Kelley, and have me back anytime, okay?
Anytime. You're welcome back anytime. Open door. Open door.